Good morning. I just wanted to go over what I found over the weekend with the Sienci Labs laser beam system. Uh, what I've got is the laser beam from Sienci Labs. I bought the whole kit along with the extra lenses. That way I've got a good setup in case there's anything particular I need to burn. One of the things that I found some issues with is I couldn't really understand a lot of the settings that needed to be changed. I went through the unboxing and all those. Scott's got a really good how-to videos on unboxing, assembly. I'm not going to go into all of those here because they've been done multiple times through Scott's video. It's really good. Bucky's Customs has a good video on how to install everything. But once you get them installed, Scott does talk about some settings in light burn that you need to change, as well as corresponding settings in G-Sender. So what I did is I went through and I dumped my config file out before and after, so that way we can kind of walk through the settings. Scott's videos talk about setting 30, which is going to be your spindle max, and that has to match what you have in a light burn. 31 would be your minimum speed, so this is for my spindle as it is currently, and then this would be the changes for in light and G-Sender for the laser. So what Scott does is he talks about going into light burn and making sure your S value max is set to 255, and then we come over to G-Sender and that is going to be value 30. So currently mine is 24,000. I have the PwnCNC water cooled spindle and the SLB spindle's connected through Modbus, so my setup may be a little bit different than some others. But for the laser, we need to change that to 255, and then our minimum spindle speed is going to be 0 to match. You also need to go down to change your spindle 0, or if you don't have a spindle, or I have a spindle, so mine is set for my Modbus. Mod VFD is up above. So in order to put the laser in, I need to change spindle 1 to the SLB laser. I also changed setting 742 for the offsets, which is based on the video or the table here on the laser. I'm using the MK2 65 millimeters, so that means my laser is 66 millimeters in front of my spindle, which is a key thing to remember where that is, because when G-Sender starts off, your home for your spindle is going to be different than the home for your laser. What I noticed is I have my file here and I save it as G-code, but what Lightburn does is it adds this header up here, and it was adding a G54 up here, and what I had to do is I had to change that because my offsets are a little bit different. Not a big deal depending on how you set up, but be aware that if you have offsets preset in G-Sender, I have all of my workspaces set up. If anybody's seen any of my other videos I've talked to you before, is I have these steel pins here where my work is, and I can just pull these pins out if I need to go around them, but that way my material always stays in the same place every time. This is G54, then I've got another one for 55, 56, 57. That way I can have 4 different pieces mounted. But anyway, that changes that. Light burn is going to reset that to G54, which means it's going to be in my spindle position, not where my laser goes. Now I had thought that changing in here this offset, which matches what it says in that table, I thought that would help me out. But that doesn't seem to change anything, so I don't exactly know where that goes just yet. I'll try to figure that out. But what I have here is I'm on Mod VFD. I have my spindle, so I can turn it on, and you can hear my spindle spin up. And then we'll stop. But when I want to switch over to my laser, is I'm going to come down to 30, and I'm going to change that to 255. I'm going to change this to 0. Now I'm going to leave this here as just normal, because when I changed here, this changing that actually turns on firmware setting 32. So I switch over to the laser, and let me flip back over to this camera. And I'm going to go ahead and set this down. I'm going to come back to my position here. I'm going to go ahead and home just to make sure I'm in the right spot. And you'll see that the laser sticks out in front of the spindle quite a bit. So if I were to turn on my laser here, hold on, let me change. I have to turn on the driver box. So I have the driver turned on. I have set the laser mode, SLB laser here. So if I just turn on, hit the test, I'm going to do a 5-second burn, and that comes way out in front. And this is in my G54 position with my pins. So what I did is I applied an offset here to jump up to there. And now if I hit my laser test, I'm going to be right on the corner. So that way if I start my job, and I'm going to start burning here. Now instead of letting that run through with this all on, I'm going to go ahead and stop it, just so I can go talk about the next thing that I found. I'm going to turn this off. And what I found is, now that I've switched into laser mode, I could go from spindle to laser, but I cannot go from laser back to spindle and be able to turn on the spindle. See how it says it's on, but it's not. You can't hear it run. And also my RPMs are different. So as I come in here back into firmware, this is the part that I didn't quite know if I'm doing correctly, is I have to come back here. I have to set my max spindle speed and set my minimum spindle speed. I'm going to apply, which changes, but I still can't turn on my spindle. So what I have to do is turn off the SLB, turn it back on, and now I'm going to reconnect to the SLB. And I'm not going to worry about homing right now, because all I want to do is turn on my spindle. And you can hear the spindle spin up. So I'm not sure if I'm doing that right, but that's what I found, is you can switch from spindle to laser without restarting the SLB, but to switch from laser back to spindle is you have to turn off the SLB and then reconnect. And just what I'm using, what I had on that, let me go back to this real quick. Just for testing, I've got this is a piece of steel plate that I painted white. If you've ever done anything with lasers, diode lasers, the white paint has titanium dioxide, which will burn black when you engrave on it with a diode. So that way you can see pretty quick what your settings are. I do a steel plate, that way I can reuse it over and over again. Whereas with my wood test, it's burned, and I have to completely sand this down and start over again. One thing you see here is my material test. In Lightburn, there's a setting to do a material test. So I would recommend going through there and just seeing what your settings are. You'll see this one starts out at 600 millimeters per minute, 10% speed, or 10% power all the way up to 100% power, and it goes faster and along there. So you can see at 600 millimeters and 100% power, actually pretty much all of 600 millimeters, that's just completely burned. So play around with your power speed settings to get that figured out how you want it. But once you get going, you should be good. I'm sure I missed a lot of things. Not real sure on, like I said, the offsets, how the offsets work. Not sure if I'm doing the workflow correctly about changing back and forth and restarting the SLB. But I wanted to at least get this documented out as far as how I'm using it right now, and I can make corrections if somebody has a workflow that works better. If I'm doing it wrong, just let me know and I'll update. Just trying to get a little bit of help out there. I know there's been a couple guys that reached out and said that they were getting ready to buy a laser or have already bought the laser and just waiting to install it. So we'll see what we can do, getting everybody together. If you have any questions, anything, let me know. Correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. Doesn't bother me. And I'll talk to you later. Thanks.